Well, hello everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever in the beautiful world you are. Happy Monday. And wow, what a happy Monday it is. Not only do we have an awesome roundtable right now with incredible women, but also Beverly and I are having another show later, our usual Monday show as well. So I'm really happy to have everybody here today. And of course, thank you everybody in the chat for joining us. I'm really good to see you, Suzanne, Jojo, and Rona. Yay! We have a new member. Welcome to the Arrow Tribe. Thank you so much for joining us, Rona, and I hope you have lots of fun with us behind the scenes as well. Yay! Okay, guys, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on these incredible women with me, who Beverli Rhodes. Oh, I saw myself just shake and wobble a bit there. Beverli Rhodes, who I'll have on later as well. Rachel Vaughan from Australia, also no stranger to this channel. Juliette Engel, who's recently a guest on this, and wow, some amazing. Oh dear, there's my internet wobbling again, but hey, we'll get through it. Cathy O'Brien, no stranger to this channel either. Cathy's just launched her new book, Resolutions, and it's so interesting because at the similar time to the relaunch of our channel, Solutions, which is awesome. And then of course, Dani, who is always a wonderful co-host to have. So without any further ado, we're going to bring on all these incredible women. Let's bring them on. Hey, everybody. So nice to see you all.
Hi,
Hi.
There we
guys.
go.
Hi,
Yay.
everyone.
Hi to the lovely audience.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I want to just start by saying welcome to all you incredible women. You know, we were just sitting behind the scenes chatting, and it just dawned on me how amazing it is. We are here from South Africa, the UK, Australia, America, and I think I don't know if anyone's in Canada. Yeah, if any. Oh gosh, yeah, my internet's going. But anyway, I won't talk much longer. But that we are able to actually sit here at this time and speak about these topics, exposing these disgusting atrocities in the world, but yet at the same time being able to form such a strong circle of allies with whom we sing together, we play together. You know, I always say we're all on the same team playing different positions. That's all. We're all just making up one great big orchestra. So as always, I adore you survivors. Each one has your incredible story to tell. There's no one braver than survivors of these atrocious acts. So it's always a great pleasure, even if I've seen you on my channel 20 times. It's such a great pleasure to have you ladies here, just sharing your hearts and sharing your stories. And thank you. And Dani, of course, always a wonderful co host. So, Dani, without any further ado, I'm actually going to open up for you first today. So you can open and start with some questions or just a line of conversation for these incredible people.
Thank you, Shanti. Yeah, I love co-hosting with you because it's our intention to share each other's channels, and reach a much broader audience that are interested in the reality and the truth of their Earth and their solar system. And it's just incredible. Shanti, you also, as a great healer, a great whisperer of truth that you rarely get commended for, because you're so busy, as I am too, promoting everyone else and tend to put other people in front of you. But I'm so looking forward to having you on my channel soon to talk about your new beautiful book, your Ankara book, and to bring the wisdom that I don't think many people know that you truly embody. They can guess, but we'll definitely be bringing that to the fore and putting the magnifying glass rightly and justly on you, my love, for sure. So I want to say, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, I'm an Aquarian, Dani. We'll rather give everyone else the spotlight. It's nice for us to just hang in the background. But yeah, it's beautiful times. And, it's a time for everyone to share. But thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing, but we'll definitely talk more about that. So I'm thinking, yeah, sorry, I know I've got a lag and it's probably my internet. So I just want to get my words over with. And then I'm going to actually hand over to you ladies and I will come in rarely because my internet, for some reason, the last month or two is not playing nicely. And so I'm going to ask you ladies then to share and we'll have these amazing conversations, just talking about, your journey, darkness to disclosure. Every one of us here on this channel, all of you amazing survivors have done such an incredible job of healing as well. And for me, obviously, what Dani was saying, and I know you're a healer too, Dani, it's so important for us as healers who've not been involved in the SRA world to actually witness this. It is such a blessing for me to see, as a healer, to see the healing of the worst, and then you're still able to love, to share, to care, to give a damn about humanity, when no one has actually been there. No one, think about this. No one actually believed you 10, 15, 20 years ago. The survivors were seen as crazy and treated like you guys belonged in a loony bin. Now more and more people are waking up. And I think it's not just your abusers, as I'm sitting here. I think it's society in general that has let our survivors down. So we just want to be a voice for all of those non-survivors who've actually ignored. I've never thought about it like this. It's coming through to me right now. So I want to say this with a great open heart. We've ignored you guys for such a long time. And thank you for having the patience with us so that we could see and that we can share. Thank you. The blessing.
Bless you, Shanti. I would just like to do a very quick synopsis, which is pretty impossible to do. But for anyone that may not have heard of you, amazing, beautiful friends and ladies, to give a highlight, Beverli Rhodes, who wrote the book Horse Girl, was pimped out by her stepfather to Masonic lodges and suffered and endured horrendous abusive situations and rituals therein. And it wasn't until she was in a horrendous terrorist attack on the London Underground and was in one of the trains with people perishing around her that her actual memories started to come back. And she's been speaking out for quite some time. And then if we move to Rachel Vaughan in Australia, we've got the fact that her father stole children off the street and they were ritually perished, and she has been trying to tell the government of Australia forever where the children are buried, the Beaumont children, and what her own father did to her and other children. And she speaks out, and her healing is profound. Her work in ley lines is profound. And then we have Cathy O'Brien. Cathy O'Brien has been revealing the White House and the Pentagon at the hands of the Clintons and the Bushes and these evil monsters who some are still in power today, and had to witness her own little girl be horrifically abused by them, the monsters. And yet this woman stands strong and survives in ways that, I mean, she truly is to me the most healed earth angel I ever saw in my life. And the honor to call you my friend is just beyond. And then we move to Juliette Engel. My God, Juliette is one of the first children that was ever used in the first MK Ultra program on this planet. This woman is an original child of this program, and so much was tested on her also in the beginning, and that she has survived and come through and become a doctor and changed birthing rooms in Moscow. I mean, Shanti, you and I are sitting with 4 absolute legends, global legends. And it is emotional talking about you girls and trying to give a synopsis to those that don't know. And we're just so in awe of being like in your presence, honestly, truly. Just love you all so much. Say something.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Oh, I love you, Dani.
I would actually like to start. I would like to start by asking each one of you, on the note that we started, what would you, as each individual, like professionals, healers, counselors, viewers, to know about SRA? If there's something you would like our viewers to know, what would that be? Beverli, start with you.
I think and thank you for the opportunity to be on the panel today with these lovely ladies. It really is an honor. I think what I'd like individuals to understand about SRA is that it's not always obvious. And also because of the way that we are treated and the different chemicals we're fed, we don't always remember everything. For many years, we can go and just live our lives until something happens that it triggers us, and then the memories start flooding through. So just be kind and be an open person so that when it does start flooding through, allow people to talk, because I think that a lot of the SRA survivors, when they start having these memories and see and remember what happened to them, it is generally so awful that it's hard to talk about it, but it's very hard to find somebody who would actually even listen. So if you can just become the ear with an open heart, that would be, I think that would make a big difference to all of us.
I think that is such an important thing. You know, when we speak with survivors, to be believed after such a long time of not being believed, right, is really, it's an amazing thing to be believed, and especially by the public, and especially when you start seeing people are standing up for you. I think that's an amazing thing. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. What about you, Rach?
Well, I'd like to sort of just point out that the False Memory Syndrome Foundation was disbanded, I believe it was 2019, and was founded by pedophiles. You know, that's the other thing. This is the number one thing that was thrown at me throughout my disclosure period. I started speaking out about my abuse in 2006. And I went through the supposed proper channels through police first, because for some strange reason I thought that they might actually listen. But, you know, people, the number one thing that gets thrown at us is that we're crazy. But the thing is, you know, the last 4 or 5 years, there's been so much disclosure. We're finally, thanks to people like yourself and Dani, getting the platforms that we deserve to be able to explain that these things are real. And there are so many survivors coming out. So any opportunity that I have to have a dig at False Memory Syndrome Foundation, I grab it. I mean, I had an abuser who was a high level and an MK Ultra, military level MK Ultra programmer, who was a psychologist, a child psychologist. And that was the number one thing that was thrown at me and my 2 siblings who've also spoken out. And it's just so incredibly infuriating. But they've been disbanded because it was all a load of rubbish. I'd rather use a different word, but best I don't.
I agree with that. And it's so true, because I remember that being spoken about actually in the, you know, a couple of years back, that had been disbanded, because a lot of people were saying that, you know, how do you believe a survivor? Because there's memories inserted in between memories type things. So it was very confusing, right, for a lot of survivors as well. What do you say to that, though? You know, when survivors are retrieving their memories, and I'm sure it's different for each survivor, because they will, maybe some will retrieve them coherently, like in a timeline or something. Others might get it in bite-sized chunks. Like if there are survivors out there right now starting to retrieve memories, what would you say would be something that they can work with? How would they know if it's a memory, if they're being triggered, that sort of thing?
Myself, I always recommend what Cathy's written about, writing it down. It's absolutely brilliant, and that's what I did before I even knew, Cathy. I was told by a woman called Frida Briggs, who's a bit of a hero here in Australia, and she knew. So I don't know if she got it from Cathy. She probably did, but yeah, an amazing woman. She said write it down, and it made all the difference, because when you write it down, it comes away from the terror and the trauma, and it becomes more logical. And then you can think about, say your memory is of being in a particular room. You can imagine in your mind, this is the memory that I have. Was that piece of furniture in that part of the house at that time? Are there photographs that I can also look at, and find if that piece of furniture was actually in that location, if I'm very young, in the memory. So you can find little bits of evidence as well. Ask people, about the surroundings with the memory so that you can validate it. There's lots of different things you can do, but the writing down is essential, in my opinion.
I agree with that. Wow, so true. Okay, Juliette, what about you?
I apologize. My heat went on last night. It got cold here. So the place filled with dust, so I'm coughing. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm the old lady of the program.
No
I'm
worries.
76 years old. Yeah, 76. And so I was one of the first ones in the United States MK Ultra program, which started in 1953, which was started by the Nuremberg scientists who were brought to the U.S., brought to Huntsville, Alabama, and then distributed around the country in what they called CIA safe houses with unlimited funds to experiment on American children. And the intelligence services put their own children in the program. So I have 5 uncles in the CIA, and my mother's brother was one of the founders of the NSA. So in 1955, at 6 years old, I was stuck in the program. And then, of course, the family denied that. All the time I was being taken away, tortured, sexually abused, satanic ritual abuse, all the things they were experimenting with based on what the Nazis had done in the concentration camps. And I know they did that in all of your countries also. But the constant denial, my family, and I knew my family had written me off. I was the disposable child. I was the one that was going to die young, to the point where my parents wouldn't even buy me shoes. So yeah, I've still got that sense that they have written me off, which they have. But anyway, so the 2 important things happened in the last year, critically important for survivors in the US, but also worldwide. And that's that the National Security Archive has released a 1,200-page file. This was in December of 2024, in which the CIA admitted to everything. And they named the people that did it. They named when they did it, how it started, how it began, how it became an offshoot of the CIA, how much the people enjoyed doing it, experimenting on children, how they set this up in Canada and then turned it over to Five Eyes, which is how it got partially through my own uncle to your countries. And so that made a huge difference, because now survivors could go to their psychiatrist and say, here it is, you can't deny me this anymore. And then last Friday, another set of documents, tranche of documents, came out from the National Security Archive, in which they expand on the confessions. And I don't know if Cathy has seen this yet, but I think it also includes testimonies. I was looking to see if it includes Cathy's testimony. It might. It's another 1,200-page tranche of documents. So this has been completely verified who did it, how they got the drugs, how they collaborated, how they set up the safe houses, who they put in the safe houses. So it can no longer be denied. The survivors have all their rights restored to them. And it's been such a short period of time. And what's happening in the US is that survivor groups are forming and people are allowing themselves to remember. But the trouble is that suicide program, there's a kill switch with every trench of memories you get. And I still run into that today. I'll start to remember something, and then that suicide desire comes up, and I know it's a suicide switch, but it's an awful thing. And if you're not used to dealing with it and slowing down the process of memory recovery, it overwhelms you. And I think people will unnecessarily commit suicide, especially if they're still surrounded by families who are telling them they're crazy. And they go to a therapist who doesn't understand that the risk that this person has of committing suicide, even though they're a professional person, they're a successful person, there's no reason to think they would, but they will, because that's hardwired into their brains. So that's been my focus the last couple of months. And I am so grateful to Cathy, who's led the way in the United States. I mean, every time I start to come unglued, I go back to Cathy's books and writings, and I can't wait to read her new book. The courage it took to come forward and do that, and to let the people all over the United States look to Cathy, resolving these horrific issues to become a whole person. I don't think I've got there yet. But anyway, so I'm the old lady in the program. I've got the overview, and I hope that helps everywhere. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help the next generation coming up resolve this.
Wow, that's really, talk about the old lady of the program. Well, I just want to compliment you and say, I don't know where those 76 years are sitting, but they're not on your face, from what I can see.
Well, I have this little setting on my camera. It says, do you want the camera to make you look better? And I go, oh yeah, sure. Do that. Yeah. Not going to turn that down.
I think we all appreciate that feature, especially on a Monday morning. Right? It's awesome. Thank you. That's amazing. And I think it's so true what you say, Juliette. Really, really wow. I mean, we were speaking, and I want to come back to that, like we were saying earlier on, just about this whole thing about accountability and holidays and stuff like that. But before we do, Cathy, I would love to hear from you as well. I mean, I know you're very much a leader in this survivor community, and it's always a pleasure to have you on my shows as well. And now that you've just launched your new book, I don't know, maybe you want to, speak to us about what your book is about and how that can maybe help with exactly where we're at right now, when it's coming to, as Juliette was saying, the suicide. Listen, there's so much triggering going on this past week with this Halloween going on. I mean, it was on another level of wildness out there on those spiritual streets. So we just got to make sure we stay safe on those spiritual streets, guys. But Cathy, I would love to hear your take on that.
I appreciate it. I've been speaking out for over 35 years, and I'm K-Ultra mind control and healing from it. And my story has been consistent and the same because I can't be triggered. I was taught by intelligence insider Mark Phillips, who is working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought. He let me know that it's within us all to heal. And that is the message that I continue to share. And it's finally being heard more because people are realizing mental health does not know what they're doing. They're making it harder on survivors when in fact, we have been blessed with resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. We have capacity to heal from within ourselves. When we heal from within ourselves, we evolve with a knowledge that's our defense against mind control, against any mind manipulation, so that we can't be triggered, we can't be reactivated, we can't be brought back in, so that we can stand strong in who we are, recognize the manipulation around us and not comply anymore. So we have that ability within us, and it begins with writing out memory. The very act of moving a pen activates the logic part of the brain, shifting that repressed memory over to logic where it's consciously seen. Healing happens psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. It all comes back at once. But nevertheless, in spite of that being a great way of having it all come back at once, healing is still a process. It's not an event, and it takes time. So it is wise, while we're in the healing process, writing out memory, that we don't talk about the abuse until all abusers are identified, because a lot of abusers can masquerade as and be programmed to the person as the one to run to, and in fact, we need to write all that out, deprogram the program first. The methods Mark taught me are a reminder to us all exactly what we have within us for healing. So that's in PTSD Time to Heal. And I'm excited that that information is now being received around the world by survivors who are fed up with bad therapy and intrusive, people telling them what to think instead of letting them heal. So, we've got a wonderful movement going on, which inspired me to release the poetry that I wrote while healing, because in addition to remembering the past, we need to know how to move into the future, how to cope with the reality of what we've been through. So I vented through poetry, again, picking up that pen and paper and writing it out, doing the word play, using their ways of manipulating the subconscious, words with 3 or 5 meanings, just all weaved into the poetry. And then usually adding a solution or writing about a solution or hoping for a solution or whatever. So that's what's in my newly released book, Resolution, along with the collages that Mark taught me to make. He said, just clip out anything from a magazine or a newspaper that's like a trigger that triggers you, and then collect them in a box. Then how it's assembled kind of assembles the brain and takes all those little dust pieces and those fragments and pulls it together. So that was how I gained access to my subconscious repressed memories. Then I wrote them out, and then I wrote the poetry. So it's kind of part of the healing process I wanted to share with people. It's going to be followed immediately by Align with the Divine, which is an important aspect of healing that grounds us and gives us a rudder and roots us with that strength of the human spirit, that commonality of all that the brain, it pulls everything together and gives us the strength to stand up strong when people do, tell us we're crazy or tell us we're wrong, or abusers try to trigger us. We have this infinite strength. When we live the love we are, our vibration's so high they can't reach us anyway. So Align with the Divine is coming along right after that. But these are just various levels of healing that we all can do, that we're all doing. We're starting to realize that this traumatic control, this mind control agenda is a spiritual warfare, and we have the victory within us, because what happens to us in life is not who we are. Who we are is still within, divinely protected, and we can retrieve it all. And it's such a celebration of the strength of the spirit, the celebration of victory, that I'm speaking out as much as humanly possible, getting it out everywhere to empower survivors, because the survivors are the ones who need the information and not the misinformation from mental health.
Wow, so beautiful. So amazing the way you talk. It's so uplifting. As you know, Cathy and Rachel, you both spoke at my last conference just in September in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mwah. And I was so proud to have you. And I've had obviously Juliette and Beverli and Shanti on my channel. So it's like we all know each other. We all hold each other very dear. This year at my conference, Galactic Spiritual Informers, which is the greatest disclosure event on the planet. And I say that because of the speakers I bring and because of the feedback and the things that we bring to humanity and the solutions also. And it was so fascinating also having our friend Max Lowen on stage. He was totally revealing all of the truths and realities of what happens in and underneath the Vatican. And so we're taking down the old guard in every single way. And of course we need the actual solutions that work. And like you said, you know, psychology and psychology and psychiatric care, it's all been so infiltrated. It's all been so delivered incorrectly. I'm also a qualified therapist, and I've seen things over the years that I was expected to put into practice. And one such thing was this. We were told in training, if somebody shows signs or says they want to end themselves, you must report it immediately. And actually that wasn't helpful at all, because I witnessed some other therapists do that and their patients were mishandled. So I would say to people, because I myself have had many thoughts of leaving the planet, and so I came to understand and trust myself that's actually normal in certain circumstances, not that you're going to follow through. And so I ignored, and also I went against modern day therapy with the person that needs help coming and sitting in my clinic week in, week out, going over the same story, just regurgitating the cellular memory, not healing, not moving on, not processing, not releasing. And so I thoroughly went against it, and have, you know, lost lots of friends, and that's fine too. They weren't friends in the first place, were they? Because people have a terrible time with being wrong. Now, one of the things I want to go over with you ladies, I'm sure people will be thinking, well, you've all been through such horrific, unthinkable atrocities. Where was mum and dad and nan and granddad and brothers and sisters? So if you could each take a moment to explain to the audience what your situation was with disassociated or violent or apathetic or also programmed parental care, please. Beverli, can we start with you?
Well, my parents decided to give me up as a gift baby, so they were only around for a short period of time. And because I was given to my elder sister who couldn't have children, she decided, and they both decided, her husband became my handler and ended up being the one that was undertaking all the fixing. So unfortunately, because they'd waived their rights and I was put into their care, they became sort of my parents, but they were the ones who were organizing the abuse and organizing, you know, all these unusual, strange parties, etc., the bestiality parties, the sacrificial parties. They were doing that. So the parents were just not around, sadly.
Rachel.
So my father was my main abuser, and he was a Secret Services operative in Australia. He came from Freemason stock. So his grandfather, who died when he was 11, was a high-up Mason, like a Grand Master. And my father's mother, my paternal grandmother, was a very strange woman. She was head of the Eastern Star Sect, apparently. They won't tell me, but that's the rumour, which is the female version of Freemasonry. And she was not very cruel, but she was very cold, and she didn't ever hug me or pat me on the head or anything like that. So my father's side of the family, you know, programmed. My mother's side, well, she had a pretty difficult childhood and was pretty much plucked out of that family to be a breeder for my father. So she's very easily hypnotized. He could just click his fingers and she'd be under. He'd say a few words. It was, you know, rapid induction. So she was a good woman. I'm not in contact with her now. I believe she's still alive, but a good woman. She had no chance.
Juliette.
Well, my family was thoroughly involved. My great-grandfather was the Grand Commander of the Knights Templar for North America. His sons were all Shriners, which is above 33-degree Masons. They embraced this philosophy. Each one of them had an eldest child that they put in another family. So I'm meeting cousins who are my first and second cousins who grew up in families not even related to us. We're finding each other on Ancestry and wondering how we all got where we got. My parents, I did DNA test my parents. They are my parents. They were both deeply involved. And like I said, I was the throwaway child. They were paid for me. They did sell me, and they were paid monthly for me. And I remember big fights between my mother and my uncle because they weren't buying me clothes or enough food, or, the money that they were getting was supposed to, keep me alive. So the family was completely involved. I got more support outside of the family from complete strangers. I mean, I spent my childhood seeking out strangers, and because every time I'd go to one of these annexes or CIA safe houses and go through all this stuff, I'd come back to school and I'd have black eyes and my nose would be bleeding and I'd be a wreck, and the school would want to know what had happened to me. And so my parents would pick us up and move to another county, which at that time, before computers, you could do that, just go to another school district. And so we constantly moved, changed places, changed states, eventually changed countries and moved to Canada. And I spent time in Mexico. Eventually my parents left and moved to Mexico. So the family was deeply, deeply involved in it. And I wanted more than anything to break that cycle and take my family out of that. I'll never know if I succeeded or not, but I certainly tried.
Bless you, Juliette. Thank you. And Cathy?
Oh, my father sold me into MK Ultra very early on. He was sexually and ritually abused himself and was passing that on to me from infancy. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. And again, we've all mentioned Masons and the Masonic secret societies of some sort or another. And that's where the secrets on mind control were kept, because knowledge is our defense against mind control. They needed to keep it secret. And secret societies are a big problem. Well, my father's abuse was accepted in my community because of the Masonic Lodge at first and all the politicians and law enforcement that hung out there. When he sold me into the project, I was ritually abused at my local Catholic church. Muskegon, Michigan is notorious. It was even named the pedophile capital of the United States by the Muskegon Chronicle, the newspaper there, because there were so many pedophiles per capita, because it was a huge CIA Jesuit operation of MK Ultra mind control. It's where they first brought it into the school system. We were the leaders in the nation in education because the children were being programmed and with what to think. So my parents were horrifically abusive, but they were totally accepted in the community by politicians, law enforcement, the church, school, everyone in the community. I really thought that's the way the whole world was. And that, I was just, one of my last thoughts going into MK Ultra mind control was, I wish there was some place in the world where people didn't hurt each other. Well, now that I'm free, I'm determined not only to break that genetic chain and stop that kind of abuse, but to bring the truth to light where, people everywhere can stand up and start breaking their genetic chains and stop this line of abuse that's gone on in secrecy for so long.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important points to make there, Cathy. And thank you, ladies, for sharing, because I know, again, it's not easy for you just to dip back into the parental horror, you know, and we really do respect and value you being here, and, you know, that you're strong enough not to get re-triggered, but also to be respectful. Because it was like you say, Cathy, about, you know, breaking all the generational, but I want to point out to people watching that many of us, all of us, many of us are still being programmed and mind controlled. And here's an example. Myself recently broke out of a mind control situation where I didn't realize I was being so influenced, as clever as I'd like to think I am, as for humanity as I know I am. But I was told this person's CIA, this person's FBI, this person's a grey, this person's a reptilian, this person has an implant. So it's happening all of the time. Because why? Because MK Ultra mind control has affected most people on the entire planet. And my personal advice to everyone and anyone: speak out to everybody, because somewhere in that shitstorm are good people, are people like Cathy O'Brien with solutions that can help you. You think it's like Rachel going to the police and the government as a little girl and saying, there's my daddy killed children, they're on the land we live on, and nobody listened to her. Teachers and police, and, you know, we've all experienced these things, and we know it to be true. So I do think that speaking out, writing out, not stopping, not listening. I will never again myself listen to gaggle or think this is the way or that's the way. I mean, we always try and do the best we can. We should never, ever stop. When we're wrong, own it, and then speak out. Because if you don't speak out, you are owned. No one's owning this bitch. So everyone should speak out, share their truth, right? And just keep talking, and create our own ripple effect. I really do believe that. Over to you, Shanti.
I fully agree with that. The truth absolutely sets us free. Totally. It really, really, and you can't ever argue with the truth. I mean, no matter what crap you've gotten up to, it's better to own up, because no one can ever argue with that. When you've expressed the truth, it is what it is. What I, again, you know, hearing you ladies speak about your family, you know, and your beginnings. I mean, when we hear how each and every one of you, how it began for each and every one of you, and I'm going to say it straight from, I always say I'm God's favorite F-bomb child, so I'm going to use that now. I mean, you guys, you women had no fucking chance. When you look at each and every one of your families that you were born into, and each and every one of you, it breaks my heart, because this is what I keep saying with the survivors. And as a healer, this is something I've absolutely recognized. The place these monsters attack first is the family, and they attack the relationship first and foremost with the mother. Now think about what that is for a baby. The baby has been in the mother's womb for 9 months, right? That's your lifeline. Suddenly you're ripped out, hauled off, smacked on the ass. If you're a boy, circumcised, first step of SRA, in my opinion, you know, and have terrible things go on, right? And it's like, when we understand that that is the first thing they do, and that's how they absolutely destroy trust. They break that energetic bond of trust, because it's so clear to me that when we're looking at you survivors, by the time that you were born, your mother was not your mother anymore. That wasn't your mother in your mother's body. It was not your mother's spirit, right? They'd already separated her from her, if that makes sense. So, you know, they have all, whatever it is, entities, altars. I still don't know what's what, to be perfectly honest. But there's some kind of a different energy coming in there that is hurting her own child. And I speak especially from a mother's perspective. So We are taught not to trust. Survivors are taught not to trust. Their first torture in life is to create mistrust from the survivor to the parents. And the psychology behind that is so damaging, and it's so in the long run. But what my point here is to ask you, because all of you, are we all ever healed? No. Hey, I'm still screwed up. I still got issues because my mother didn't give me enough attention. Okay. And that's my issue. I don't have issues, in other words. That's what I'm saying. All of us are affected by our issues, right? But all of you here have gone through such a profound healing journey. And I would love to know from, again, each and every one of you, going from that place of total destruction, of trust, you violate it in the worst ways over and over and over. It becomes this trauma loop, right? It's this trauma loop that you guys live through. So in my book, I now call it the love loop. How did each of you get from that trauma loop and transform it to the love loop that clearly all of you have more good or more love loops going on now than trauma loops, if that makes sense, which is why you would be speaking and sharing your stories. So again, I want to ask you each what it was for you that enabled you to turn that corner from darkness to compassion to love. Beverli, I'll start with you again.
Oh, thank you. That's really good. Yeah, you're right about the trauma loop. Is something that continues. And I will say that as I'm still complex PTSD sufferer, it is one of those things. It's a daily ritual to try and deal with it. You don't just walk out of it just like that. So I've coined a phrase from trauma to triumph, so that you have just one small triumphant aspect energetically every day or every couple of days. Find something that's going to bring you pleasure, that's going to allow you to trust, or allow you to have, even if it's just a little animal that gives you pure absolute love and loyalty, because the animals do teach us that loyalty is an amazing healing process. And so what I was doing is I was working with horses in equine assisted psychotherapy and helping other trauma individuals through horses as well. But then also one of the aspects that I did was rather than relive those events and see them, I then chose to rather remote view them. So as a remote viewer, I was going back and looking in or peeping in to the trauma events, but then replacing that trauma energy with either an energy of ambivalence, so therefore it cannot trigger me anymore. It is gone, I release it. And it takes a long time because, in some cases, it's, in my case particularly, it's like 9, nearly 10 years of constant abuse on a daily basis. So what I was doing then is replacing the trauma with being rather happy with myself and saying I'm triumphant over that little tiny memory. So I've won about that memory and released that as an energetic pattern. And because I see those energies, I'm able then to transmute it from that awful darkness into something that's lighter and brighter, and not necessarily always a love energy, but just to light and release it back to source, to great creator. And that's kind of what I've been doing to try to get myself to a point where eventually I will be an entirely whole person. And that's the only way that I've been able to get through everything.
Wow, that's so profound as well, and it's just that one tiny step at a time, right? Where you just feel that little victory. As you say, I mean, even though I'm feeling like hell today when I wake up, but just the fact that I really enjoyed making breakfast and I actually feel much better after eating breakfast is a triumph. I think that is so important for every survivor. To recognize those little
tiny, many, I call them many milestones, because, I mean, just breakfast, you've mentioned breakfast, we weren't given breakfast. We weren't given food because we had to make sure that we didn't have to have bathroom breaks. We weren't allowed to have bathroom breaks, actually. And if we did have a bathroom break without going to a proper bathroom, there was hell to pay. And they were very afraid that, you'd upchuck or you'd vomit up whatever you've had for breakfast because of whatever they were doing. So they just wouldn't feed you in that case, because if you've got nothing in your little tummy, it's not going to come out, and it's not going to go out the bottom end either. It's just going to stay. It's going to be nothing. So you know what? Oh, it's all right. Just don't feed her. So, you get fed maybe once every 3 days, which is fine. And these are these things that you carry with you. And, you'll have comments from people, even now, people say, oh my God, you eat like a bird. You don't eat enough to keep a sparrow alive. And I'm like, well, I'm used to not eating much. And if I don't eat for a couple of days, that's also fine. And this is how it is. It's just a mini milestone that you can get past, and you collect them and give yourself the happiness and bring back the trust in small ways every day.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Rach, you?
Well, I mean, it's a long process. So I have severe PTSD. And as we talk, I'm constantly, because I'm rubbing my hands together because it's a self-comforting thing, I'm very conscious of the fact that I can't bear to have one hand in my left hand, over the back of my left hand. So, yep, you're doing it too. Yeah. So there's these things, constant adjustments that you make on a daily basis. But I've healed my body in many ways. So I'm supposed to have to continue to, every 5 years, have a procedure so that I can, empty my bladder. But I haven't had to have that done for 20 years because I've worked so hard to actually heal my body. So it's a lot of healing is energetic. And I know that most of the people here, well, probably all of you know that that's a big thing. Speaking out was a big thing for me. Writing out the memories was a big thing for me. Learning not to care what other people's opinions of my memories were. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Proving it to the point that I've actually been compensated. But singing for me, we were talking before about the horrible, ritualistic dates. Halloween, Christmas, birthdays are really horrific for people who've gone through ritual abuse. Easter, these are horrible times when everybody else is celebrating. I had psychic driving with Christmas carols. So to get around that, I now sing in a choir and we put on Christmas concerts. So, I force myself to do it, but we sing really unusual Christmas carols and they're very, very beautiful. And that is part of my therapy. So constantly the constant challenge of I just refuse to be what my abusers wanted me to be. And it actually gives me great joy to know that I'm singing and so doing it so joyfully. And I know that would drive them crazy if they had any way of hearing what I was doing. It would be very annoying to them. So that obstinance, it certainly helps. Yeah. So you can have a lot of humor stuff too.
Right. Exactly. Anything that brings joy, anything that raises the vibration, right? Anything that brings genuine love and laughter, not like like laughing at someone dying type thing, but laughing because you are enjoying seeing the cats playing or something like that. That type of uplifting energy is indigestible to these guys. It really, really is. So it's so true what you say about just, being in joy as much as what you can, because that's something they really don't like, is laughter from the pit of your belly with such joy that it almost like, takes off, right? Teleports, or I don't know, it like shoots off, like a rocket that you yourself, I mean, it's indigestible to them. That's amazing. I love that. Thanks, Rachel. Juliette, what about you?
Well, I became an adult while I was still a baby. My brother was born when I was 3. By that time, I could completely written off my mother, so I took over taking care of my brother. I mean, this is my brother remembers it as sheer torture, but I was left with him. She'd leave him with me, and the only way I could feed him was to go in the kitchen and break the glass jars of baby food on the floor, and then we'd both eat it, and we'd eat the glass, and oh yeah, it was, and then, I mean, it would lead to the fire department coming because the neighbors would get onto this, and so it was just like I always felt like I just couldn't get anything right, you know. I had a seashell collection, and my brother was really, really hungry, you know, and there was no food, and so I fed him the seashell collection, which then came out the other side, and I remember being really upset that my mother wouldn't give me my seashell collection back. But, you know, I was torturing my brother because I didn't know what to do. I was trying to feed him, trying to take care of him. It's lucky I didn't drown him or something, but I was only 2.5 years older than him. And so I did everything to become the adult, you know, the responsible one. And I took responsibility. And my parents would beat my brother, and I'd attack my parents because if they beat me, I was stronger than he was. And so I sort of became the responsible. I took it on myself, and by interfering and assuming and taking it on and doing all that, it gave me a degree of control. Because yeah, I might have screwed it up, but it was me screwing it up, not someone else doing it to me. So I would say that formed the core of the person that I became, and magnified to a global level with multiple languages and other countries and programs that did help children. But I've never felt like I've done enough or done it right. So I continue to be triggered. And then I go to Cathy's book, PTSD, and start writing things out and calm down again. But I don't know. I've reached a level of stabilization and peace because I was raised in the sex magic program, and the sex magic program uses magic. I was fully trained as a foreign spy. I learned how to, I mean, I can speak other languages, I can pass lie detector tests, I can do all these things by being in other compartments of myself. But I considered it all the program. I couldn't separate myself from the program. Like, was I in there, or was the person that could actually do all these things only because of the program? And one day I decided to give up the program, and I laid down on the bed and gave it up and thought I was going to die. This is it. It's over. Done. But I didn't die. But I did give up the program and just let it go. And then I heard the Holy Spirit laughing at me like little bells. And then I wrote this all down and I put it in my book, Angels Over Moscow. And so I don't know. I don't consider myself. I'm 100% healed from where I started, but I don't know what normal would be for me. I don't. I can look normal for a while. That's all. So I'm still doing it. I'm trying to help. I'm the old lady. I'm trying to help. I'll give you everything I know. That's it.
I love that. Well, please know you're doing great. Really.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Really. I mean, that's all. There's nothing else to say. You're doing fantastic. So whether you believe it or not, we can see that whatever script they try to label you with, it's been flipped.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful.
Oh, I'll fight till
Thank
I
you.
die. That's I decided that at the beginning, and I'm amazed that I'm 76. I never expected to live this long.
Exactly. You've defied everything that they put on you. That is a miracle in itself. So awesome. Thank you. Wow. Cathy, what about you?
Oh, learning to trust. By the time Mark lifted my daughter and me out of the swamp, I didn't know good people existed in the world anymore. But when people endure so much trauma to the point of losing their capacity for conscious free thought, there's no continuity of thought due to compartmentalization. The brain kicks in other aspects, the telepathy, the intuitions, the heightened vibrations, all these different capacities that our brains are actually capable of, the more primitive part of the brain, where we can sense good vibration, bad vibration, the whole spectrum there. And because I was so telepathic, I was attuned to my horse, Beverli. And she was amazing. I didn't have to call her or anything. She would come up to me. If I needed to get across the farm, she'd come up to me, stand in front of me. I'd get on, no bridle, no saddle, no words, no nothing, just go. And it was just that way. Well, when Mark came and rescued us, he rescued our cows and horses and guineas and chickens and dogs and cats, because he knew people abuse animals and vice versa, no regard for life at all. So my horse, who always ran from my handler, just walked right up to Mark, looked at him, and loaded herself on the horse carrier. She loaded herself right on, and it was like, whoa, if she can trust him, I can trust him. That was my first inkling, was through my horse. So from there, I was able to listen to what he was telling me to help me heal, and to write out memory, to like that aspect. But I couldn't have done it without that first inkling of trust. The more I healed and wrote out deprogram the program first, the more I realized the power of the divine having allowed for survival all of that time. So by aligning with the divine within, I gained all this other strength, this insight, this reality that no matter what my body went through, my spirit was always in a safe, loving space. That being the case, even Satanists couldn't even touch it. And I came to this realization of, wow, these perpetrators were such a low, dark, negative vibration, such a horrible energy force, way low, that they couldn't even touch the strength of the human spirit. And it's too high of a vibration. So then I remembered clearly how their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. They can't touch it. They can't reach it. They can't control it. So our humanity is under attack at this point. And they're using mind control to keep us from being able to think, to access that strength of spirit that they fear so much. Because without free thought, there's no free will. If we lose our free will, we lose our soul expression. Without soul expression, we have no discernment of truth. We don't have compassion for each other. We don't have the ability to align with the divine within and live the love we are, live that strength of spirit. Mind control takes us away from all that. So in my healing process, that realization was so profound that it's like, okay, they got that fear, that hatred, that bitterness from me the first 30 years of my life. They're not getting any more. Everything I do is going to be out of love for my daughter, love for humanity, love for the children, and in celebration of the reality of the strength of the human spirit. So by keeping my vibration higher, I feel untouchable, not only by abusers and triggers, but by people who don't want to believe. So instead of, feeling hurt that they don't believe me, I look at them with compassion. It's like, oh, they're so sweet. They can't wrap their brains around this. And eventually they'll get it, because truth, like you were saying, Shanti, never goes away. It's its own energy force. It's strong. It's going to be there. So I learned to trust in truth again. And that was a big moment for me. Learning to trust in anyone, and then learning to trust in truth, my own ability to discern it, was a major step forward for me. So at this point in my life, I'm wanting to share how I learned to trust, how I learned to keep my vibration higher and align with the divine. And I'm so excited for that one to come out. I just can't wait. But because I want to share it with everybody, because it's such good news. It's going to help everybody, because like you were saying, Dani, everybody everywhere has been affected by mind control through information control. It's a form of mind control, because we all formulate our thoughts, opinions, and actions based on what we know. Well, we need to know that knowledge base has been altered a long time. We all have to expand our thinking, reclaim our strength of spirit. So as people remember who they are and why they're here, they can all raise their vibration. And I truly feel that as this great awakening is happening, as more and more survivors are emerging and reclaiming their birthright to live freely, we're raising the vibration of the planet, which is raising more awareness. And and we're on this this victory spiral of heightened vibration that's going on everywhere. So it's not going to be such a struggle to keep our vibration high when we just realize that we have all the power within us and have had all along. We just forgot. We just remember that. So I'm excited about that.
So beautiful. But one of the greatest things for me that I've learned from you, Cathy, and you live this and you embody this, and it is be the love you came to be. And what we often see with people, let's say you four ladies in particular, who've been through the most unthinkable tortures and horrors, tiny children, but it hasn't broken you. Yes, there may still be some healing here and there, as we've all discussed and shared, and that's the same for everyone. And anyone watching, we've all been through something tragic, violent, horrific, horrendous. Don't think that your suffering out there can't be looked at or worried about or cared for because you assume these ladies have gone through more than you. It's not a measuring competition. What happens to us needs honoring and loving and caring, no matter who, no matter what. So don't limit yourselves, because that also makes you a victim or a martyr, and nobody wants to be either of those. It's extremely dull to be a victim and a martyr. So everyone's healing is important. But yeah, being the love you came to be, because with these parents on the last round that we did of you sharing who the lack of parenting, the disassociative parents that you had, the ancestral generational abuse that a lot of your parents and family members had, it still proves that no matter what, the human spirit, the soul, cannot always be broken. And you're all living testament to that. One of the things I've advised over the years with the many children, adults, people I've taken care of or theraped in my own healing journey too, was give someone something that is more vulnerable than them. Here's an example. I had a little boy I was caring for. The mother was at wit's end. The little boy was largely non-verbal due to some events that had occurred in his life. So what we decided to do, and he's starting to get muscle atrophy as well. He was starting to stiffen. He was starting to completely embody things that had happened to him and that he'd also witnessed. So I said to her, get him a trampoline with a net around it, please. And also go to the rescue pound, get him a puppy, get not a brand new puppy, because that's so much extra work for a mum already caring for a child with limitations. Well, she got him a trampoline. Not only did that encourage the kids from over the way to come over and jump with him, but this little dog that came from the rescue pound became this child's absolute everything. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and get a trampoline and a puppy, but I'm giving a real-time, real-life example. And what it came down to was the mother let's say, or it doesn't matter who it was, but bringing a trampoline to a child that believes that he's going to lose his ability to walk, that he can't do anything, that he's worth nothing, and that he's going to be in emotional paralysis from the things that happen to him. That little boy went on to thrive, went on to fully regain speaking, let go of the trauma, became the best and the biggest jumper in the neighborhood on that bloody trampoline. She could never get him off it. He'd be out there in the cold, in the rain, in the snow. And that little boy raised that dog, and he'd pick him up every night, made sure he slept on his bed. There are so many ways to overcome and to heal. And with people who are trying to recover, whatever it might be right now, looking after something or doing something for those less fortunate than you, who are more vulnerable, for example, going to an old people's home, caring for them, volunteering at the soup kitchen, again, not to be a victim or a martyr, but to find things where your heart can open, if not for yourself, but for others, because that's also another journey to healing, which is so, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Another key point to make in our kind of healing processes, there's something I've used for many years. It's called timeline therapy. So let's say that you have an image in your mind that still hurts you. Everyone does. And you can't, you don't want to go there, but it's not too unbearable that it's going to trigger a kill switch or trigger suicidation. So let's say, for example, I think about a family member that was being harmed and feeling absolutely helpless, not being able to help them. And so what I learned to do was I would go a few seconds in my mind before the event. So I would just breathe in, breathe out, just take my body into calmness, because as soon as you take a breath in, you're releasing serotonin, dopamine, and endorphin. So you naturally take a step down into the self. And then what I would do is go a few minutes before the event occurred, and then I would see myself floating up and over the event. So I'm looking down on the event. So I'm learning to neutralize the energetic trigger points I have to that event, the emotional charge, the electrical charge I would have to seeing this person I love being harmed. So I go over and I see myself floating over the event, and I'm looking down. I know it's happened, there's no denying, but I need to learn how to heal my response to it. And I can show my body that I can keep my body, mind, and soul safe. And then I land on the other side of it, and then I have released something. And then I would encourage going over and over and over until you can go to that event where you no longer get triggered or pulled into the trauma, and you're helping yourself release. Then your body also starts to trust you more. The inner child that may be in emotional paralysis also learns to trust the adult you've become more. I mean, it's incredible what we are able to do as humans, on our own, right, girls?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the human spirit is such a beautiful, resilient thing. And I think this is also why we are so targeted in many ways. But, we ourselves haven't realized the love within us is the most powerful that there is. There is nothing more powerful than love. But we also need to understand how love works. Love is not weak. Love is not, I've got to be nice and sweet. Love is powerful. Love takes a stand. Love says absolutely not, no more. Love is all about the intention with which you operate, and love does not seek to harm anything. Mm-hmm. Love understands that, yes, there are certain things, creatures, maybe people will get hurt in the process, but the intention is not to hurt. There's a big difference. And I think this is really the time for us, after also listening to everything that all of you are saying, that we understand that, right? It doesn't help to go out and take revenge. It doesn't help to go out and want to murder people because they've murdered others in return. That does not, this is where the world is right now. We're looking at what's happening in Israel and the Gaza Strip. We look at what's happening in Africa. We look at what's happening in the UK. We look at what's happening in America. All over the world, there's chaos right now. And I think, we can really be a stabilizing force in that environment by realizing the things that we realize. I mean, you women are such all of you are such leaders and ambassadors in the world, that is for sure. So many people can learn so much from all of you. And I know that we're probably heading on in our time now. But Dani, I'm not sure if there's anything else you would like to maybe ask our guests. Otherwise, just a closing message from each of you would be amazing. So Dani, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, I think it's important that people out there that are supporting women like these and themselves and people they know who've been through SRA, CRA, any kind of initiation, any kind of harm, is to remember that at certain holidays in the satanic calendar, you know, people get very triggered and very traumatized and have an extremely difficult time, you know, with noises, with Halloween, with seeing things. So I think that it needs to be a bit more of a kinder world and more of an understanding that we are also being programmed to adopt these rituals more and more, like prom, for example. Like England, Britain's becoming very Americanized. That's not a good thing. It is not a good thing. It's a ritualization of our children, indoctrination of our children. So I would like people to be more aware of what they choose to bring in, because it's cool and it's American, because we're so programmed in England, Britain. Everything American's so cool. I mean, the whole world was programmed to look at Hollywood as the epitome of celebrity and acting and money. And we know that's all bollocks and evil. It's the opposite. So I would like people to be more respectful to these ladies and to rituals and programs, and think more about what they're doing, what they're putting in their windows, that kind of thing. Because I think it's important to know what's real and isn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is so true. You know, we did a show the other day with Jessie on Halloween. And I was just saying as well before, I mean, Halloween was banned in South Africa until actually the ANC government came in. Early 90s, we were not allowed to have Halloween. It wasn't even something we did. And then, now it's become such a part of our culture. It's so normal. And what we were saying earlier on, like with Halloween, and we know Halloween is one of the most brutal satanic events on the calendar, you know, and it's become such a time of fun. It's almost to me like a Valentine's Day type thing, right? But with Halloween. So I was watching on my YouTube, they've got all these influencers and things, and how many people were doing Halloween challenges and who's got the best Halloween costume, right? And it's these beautiful young women wearing all these beautiful costumes, but not realizing what the ritual is. I mean, I think that for me is also something where I think we as the general public who've not been SRA'd need to be a little bit more, and Dani, it's true what you're saying, more kind or sensitive. It might not be my reality that Christmas was certainly not a family time for everyone. My reality is it doesn't mean I've got to stop having joy over Christmas. We've also got to be really careful about that. We need to take back our holidays. We need to take back our symbols. We need to take back our dates, you know, that sort of stuff, for sure. But I'd also maybe like to then end off with each of you, from your point of view, what do you think would be a sensitive way for us to do that? What do we need to be more sensitive to in terms of stuff like that, without going overboard and saying, okay, now we're not allowed to do it because the survivors don't like it? I think there has to be a balance where we can all be respectful of each other's experiences and how we can kind of take care of each other in these times. Bev, I'll start with you again.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Shanti. I think, you know, some of the areas are quite interesting, because everyone does celebrate different holidays very, very differently. But I think that some of the areas that are very neutral, maybe going for a neutral theme that doesn't have an energetic signature or a vibration signature to it, then that will decrease the level of trauma. You can still have a green tree, have a real tree, and then plant the tree in your garden, that sort of thing, because that goes back to nature. So you've got then, up, down, and north, south, west, east, so that you're honoring each of the points rather than making it into something that has a specific vibration. Rather make those holidays more about Gaia, Mother Gaia, our earth, and allowing ourselves to be connected to the stars and the star people by changing something that, rather than have it, plastic fantastic, rather make it something that is about the earth, and that then becomes a far greater energetic cycle, because it can go back into the earth, you can ground more, you can heal more. And I think that would be just as nice to have a lovely green tree that is growing in a pot that you can then put outside afterwards. I think that might be nice. And then particularly for the Halloween season is I like the silver birch, because it has those silvery leaves and an amazing bark. That is then a neutral energy. That's sort of where I would like to see the energy going, because then you're not buying into all of the rituals. Because I think if half of the general public knew about how awful those rituals are, having participated in them, I don't think individuals would be too happy going out and buying those aspects. If they actually knew what they mean, I don't think they would be supporting that.
Exactly, that's the thing. So it's all about education and awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
Rach, what about you?
Well, when it comes to these sorts of events, you can just do your very best to avoid the commercial aspect of it, which is the spellbinding aspect. Usually it's the part where you're spending all this money and all this time and energy on these rituals, basically, and focus then on the community, on the people that you're spending that time with, on just being kind and loving towards those people around you. Educate them to a degree if you can. Don't shove it down their throats, but try and educate them on what it really is all about. And lots of self-care. If you're getting triggered by that sort of thing, you do the self-care so that you can cope and you can handle it. It's not good to always have to hide, but for some people that might be the best thing, just to not have it sort of in their faces. It drives me crazy going to the supermarket. Like I said, the Christmas carols that you hear piped into supermarkets are pure spellbinding. It's just horrific. And these are the things that were used on me, but there are other versions that you can get that are soothing. Classical music's 432 hertz. If you can get some classical sort of music, carols or something in the background that's not this horrible piped in music, that there are different ways to treat it like it could be a therapy instead of a nightmare.
There's a lag.
Yeah.
Juliette?
I'm just lost.
Sorry.
I just lost my sound here for a minute. Sorry.
All right.
Well, beyond the community aspects and all those things that you would do for your community and your children, we have to stop the crimes, the children being brought in from other countries. I know in the United States, we've had over 500,000 children brought across the southern border by the State Department, documented with $47 million in contracts to drive these children to different locations around the country, which then the government denies they know anything about, which of course they do know everything about. And they're being shipped out for all kinds of reasons, which include abuse and sacrifice during the holidays. And the worst for me was Saturnalia, which was Christmas, which involved sacrifice of children. It involved severe abuse of me. And the only reason I survived was because of my family. I'm a bloodline, and my uncle was very important in their world. So they hurt me plenty, but they didn't kill me. So, but children are being brought in over the border, and those document releases show when the CIA actually thought of this, the idea that some of us might survive and then claim that our human rights had been violated. because we were American citizens, if we managed to survive and grow up. So they decided at that point to bring in foreign children because they weren't covered under the Bill of Rights, and they could never make any claims against the government if they survived. And they made the decision to call them all Mexicans because they thought, they could bring children in from war zones all over the world to be used in these horrible rituals and these sacrifices. And if they were all called Mexicans, then Americans wouldn't notice. How awful is that? And they're still doing it. And they claimed those 500,000 children that were brought in over the last 3 years, I think, into our country. They say, oh, they're all Mexicans. That's the leftover from the mind control. Those are children coming from war zones all over the world and then being abused, sacrificed, and disappeared inside our country. And that needs to end. And our government just came out with our annual Trafficking in Persons report, which sets the tone for all funding for all government programs in the United States. And they claim, no, we don't have any trafficking. That doesn't happen here. There's none of that. Wow. We don't need to fund anything. Our hotlines work great. They don't work at all. And so there's no reason to put any effort into increasing law enforcement or protecting children. So, there's the battle. For me, anyway, that's the point. We've now got the documents. The documents need to get out there, and we need to stop the crime so that things like this just don't happen anymore. So,
agree.
Christmas is terrible. I have a terrible time over the holidays because it's not Christmas. It's a Saturnalia. It's a celebration of Nimrod, and we've been brainwashed into thinking that it's a Christian holiday.
Right. Wow. I think it's so important what you're saying about the CIA documents. And I know I've got that link, but I'm just going to make sure we've got that link in the description as well. So I'll make sure about that afterwards, because
I'll send that to you right away so it can be in the show notes. Both releases, because one just came out a few days ago.
Yeah.
No one's seen that one yet.
Fantastic.
I think I sent it to Cathy.
Yeah, please. Cathy, you're up next, honey.
We all need to see some justice, I mean, we do. We gotta get some justice back in the system. When I was remembering what I had done under mind control, I told Mark I couldn't live with myself with that. And he said, you're not responsible for what you were tortured to do under mind control. Your abusers are. And they need to be held accountable for those actions. Well, I'm still waiting for them to be held accountable for those actions. But in that process, I learned to forgive myself. And that was the most important thing of all, was learning to forgive self, to realize, that now that I am responsible for my actions going forward, because I am aware, then I'll make sure everything I do is with love. But that being able to see some justice is going to bring accountability back to people's actions. There are consequences for actions, but so far we're not seeing any. So people are just doing whatever they want. In this process, it's up to us to reframe the things like holidays, any other aspect that were triggered by. A lot of survivors have horrific birthday issues that they also need to overcome. And with conscious awareness, we consciously choose a different way. And I have consciously chose that these perpetrators, these low vibration, dark, negative energy force perpetrators cannot have rainbows. They can't have monarchs. They can't have roses. They can't have all these things they took for their symbology. They can't have holidays. They can't have Easter. They can't have Halloween. They can't have solstice. Solstice, I took that and just reframed it with a SOUL and take a completely different attitude on that. Every one of these holidays, when we take the religious indoctrination out of it, align with the divine within into the absolute spiritual aspect, ground in the earth, exactly like you were saying, get your feet in the ground, plant a tree, do something that completely reframe it into something that's real. And that's how we take it all back. We can't wait on other people to do it for us. It's up to each and every one of us to make that choice for ourselves, to honor ourselves, forgive ourselves for what we've done, take responsibility for our actions going forward. And with that responsibility, choose to reframe what other people have tried to turn into a negative and reclaim the beauty of life the way that it was intended to be lived in light of peace, inner peace, and love.
Wow, so beautiful.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. My goodness me. I forgot to say at the beginning of this, Shanti, that, it's like silly o'clock early in the morning for darling Cathy, and it's late silly clock for darling Rachel there, because we're opposite ends. But I'm just so grateful to know you all, to love you all, and you've all been on my channel, and you're coming back. Cathy, can't wait to share your new book. Julia, I've got something recorded with you. Rachel, Beverli, I've got something recorded with you on the Bigfoot and the vampires. Chantel, Shanti, we're doing your Ankara humming, beautiful healing work. And Rachel, we need to get you on again to do the ley line work that you're doing, because again, there's an opposite to everything that's happened, horrific to all of you. There's a beautiful opposite in the world that you're living in, the world that you've all created for yourselves, and that's so joyous for everyone to see. So I want to say thank you all to everyone here, the panel. Shanti, thank you again, and to the beautiful audience. It's going to be okay. We're all going to get through what we've been getting through, and there's just so much joy and love to be had as we're taking this entire planet back and collectively unifying. And like I said, don't worship, don't focus on one person or area. Just know that, reach out more, just spread the love and be the love you came to be, as Cathy always says. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. That's really amazing. And I so agree, it is time for justice now. It's also enough that these guys get exposed, or these documents get declassified after the old geriatrics are 6 feet under. Enough. We decide, we expose them. Actually, I don't give it a rat's backside what they decide we should do. It's like really up to us to say, you the one that did this, you need to be accountable. There really needs to be a court up for humanity, and we really need to be able to call up these guys. And you know what? I'm for that, really. I'm not saying we've got to go and sling the traders, or, I don't know, chop everyone's head off. No. But there has to be a form of justice that gets taken. And I'm for that. I'm saying we should start a trend, not even a trend, but literally change the tide of where this is at, that we can only speak about them when they're all dead and they're like 700 years old. I'm not interested in speaking about something that happened 50 years ago and that old ass is dead under the ground, or incinerated wherever. No, you have done horrific things to children, and I don't give a shit how much your name is at stake. You need to be made accountable. And I don't care. I'm going to start calling out these people. I seriously am.
We're doing, yes.
No, I am. No, bullshit.
Yeah.
It's enough. It's enough. They sit there, all these old geriatric celebrities in their old houses with 27 grandchildren running around, but they're all pedophiles. They're all pedophiles. No, it's nonsense. I'm so close to mentioning a few, but just for respect for someone else, I won't right now. But in future, I think I will. I'm calling them out. Seriously, people have done enough. They need to be exposed, and honestly, to protect everyone in the future. What does it help us? We protect these guys when they carry on doing it. How are we helping the kids when we are not calling them out? We have to call them out. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, that time is here. We will do it together. Thank you, everybody. Rant over for now. And I shall see you back in maybe an hour with Beverli. We will be chatting again about the royals. Yes, we all know that Prince Philip started the child trafficking rings in South Africa. That old geriatric is dead. So, yeah, we've been able to call him out. But we've got to realize that the royals have also got their hierarchy that goes down. So the question is, who's in charge of the royals now? I wonder if it's William or Harry or what's the other one's name? Charles, one of the fat finger Charles. You see, these guys, they're the ones that have literally colonized the world, actually, the Brits. And they really we need to speak about that more, because that's what's going to expose this. So, Beverli, I'll see you later. That'll be cool. And everybody else on the channel, Cathy, I would love to connect with you as well later about your book as well. Juliette, we've got another follow-up shows as well we're going to be doing. Rachel, I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday again. And Dani, seeing you, I don't know, in a few days as well. So we're all just cruising. Yay. Take it easy, everybody. God bless you all. And yeah, together we shall stand stronger. And we do stand strong. So keep it real, keep it cool. And yeah, see you soon. Take it easy. God bless you all.